If you like what you hear,
subscribe and follow us on Twitter at WTAE Podcast.
Thank you for joining us today. This is Worth the Admission podcast. I am B. Frank.
And I'm Travis. I don't know. With these films, we're getting the same thing over and over again. I want to see something new with the Terminator, but even with Rambo, people are still going to go see it. There's still an attraction to those characters. It doesn't matter. We've seen this.
Yeah, I get it. Cause look at the
Expendables. The Expendables is like the Avengers version of just shitty action stars, but people still showed up. They still made how many of them? 3? 4?
3 of them. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to make a 4th.
But it doesn't matter though. But you bring these original characters back that all these people have loved for so long, like Terminator, that's been running for nearly 40 years now.
Yeah, I think like 87, 88 was the first one.
So 30, okay, a little over 30. Yeah, it's just one of those things where...
Almost 40. Fuck. No, I get it. I feel like this is kind of a way to get the older generation back in, because you have superhero movies, but a lot of that is for parents and nerds. Like, it's not really... an older person only. Like, my dad hasn't seen a Marvel movie, but then my mom's seen a couple of them.
But okay, so on the other side of that though, you have movies like Terminator and movies like Rambo. Like, to say specifically, we're talking about those because those have trailers out right now for them. Look at like Mad Max, which was an 80s film that they remade it, and they continued it and made it even more badass. It was done the right way. Why can't we have that? It takes place the entire way through a vehicle. And that, you don't get that anymore. There's things coming out we'll talk later on, but essentially, that was an old, classic, cool 80s movie. They've even tried to make the Harrison Ford movie that he can't, Blade Runner. They've even tried to remake that. And that even was disappointing.
I don't know.
It's the
way I stand is the MCU is technically made up of multiple franchises. Okay, but it's still one long overall big ass franchise.
It's under one flagged.
But they also they do it the right way. Like, even from the beginning, Feige said he doesn't want to do like a Captain America 1, 2, and 3. He wants a Cap, he wants a Thor, he wants an Iron Man, he wants this and this. And I think that's what a lot of these others are lacking, is just they're trying to stick with the same story. Like, granted, there's not a whole lot you could do from Rambo, but they made an entire new franchise off of Apollo Creed's son.
Okay, well, and let me give you that. What about Hobbs and Shaw? Based off of the Fast and Furious franchise, yet we have yet to see that. I still think that's the same shitty thing that they're doing now, that they've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years now, or the last 2 or 3 movies. It's the same thing. You can take it in any context you want. Creed was done correctly. That's also how I feel about, actually, there's really not many that have done it lately to that level. You can go in the terms of TV route and say, like, Cobra Kai, I think has been a pretty successful TV show, and I've heard it's very good, but that's based off of something that's 80s or something that's older, that's done well in TV. But when it comes to movies, Creed was done well, and that's going to live on, and I think that's what rebooted everything else, though. That's the same reason why we're getting all these shitty other remakes from...
I'd agree with that.
So Stallone, and then people go, oh, well, we have Schwarzenegger here, too, who can still act. And no, he can't, really. These guys are just old, and I understand... I think Stallone's gone a better route and knows what he is. I hate to see this step back. It's like just a cash grab, which is in the Creed movies, He took himself out of the main role, made himself a really good support role, but he didn't have to be in every scene. The movie itself did a good enough job where he could be in bits and pieces, and the parts where he was in it mattered, especially in the second movie. Non-spoiler alert, I don't know how you want to get into it, but it's the whole process of him continuing to be sick and just everything that he goes through, and then the tension between them, and they split apart, and those moments I thought were very impactful. At least and I thought that's why he was still a great actor. And then you see Rambo, which, don't get me wrong, I like things that explode, but I've never been a huge action fan. I mean, I like my loud bangs, but now it's become more in the terms of MCU or a comic book movie that's my loud bangs come from.
The thing is movies like the Rambos, they were just straight action movies. You went in, he's gonna kill people, he's gonna fight people, he's gonna win, and he's gonna come back for another movie. With something like the MCU, just because it is such a good franchise to base things off of, we get the action, but there's also great story underneath that, and that's
yeah, and that's what carried 22 movies
nowadays.
to.
I think that's what's most important nowadays.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the thing is with like the MCU, and we go back and forth the MCU. That is the finest storytelling you'll probably ever see in a mass scale because you took 22 movies, moved them into one major arc, and I mean it's an impossible task. That's why it took as long as it did. It took over a decade to do this. But in terms of like a Creed movie, yeah, the storytelling's done very well. But that's one of the things is I thought the Rockies movies always had great storytelling to a certain point because it was about the fight and you knew about the fight, but it was also how he got there because they make fight scenes long, but you can't make a 2-hour movie and make an hour and a half fight scene. It doesn't work that way. You have to have the other parts of the movie. And, I mean, mind you, they got stranger and weirder, but I think as a collectiveness as a whole, they're still fun to watch. I think it's a good story to tell versus your loud bangs and crashes, which I know that's the 80s. That's what it was. Storytelling was a lot simpler. People are become smarter now. They want more. They want character development. They just don't want to see some dude just blow stuff up for 90 minutes. Because now it's harder to do that. It's more expensive. It's just as expensive as doing a CGI movie. And now people would rather do CGI because now you're taking the safety.
Much easier, cleaner, much more controllable.
Yep, safety. You're talking. You can make your own environment, like Aquaman. Look at that being completely. A lot of that movie being shot completely underneath water. If you could do that, or have to build a tank and house it and do all this, and it just ends up being just as expensive, it doesn't benefit the movie. Yeah, they're doing it the right way, except for Waterworld. Have you ever seen that movie? That Kevin Costner. Terrible.
No, but I've heard how awful it is.
It's on like
I think it's on Watch Mojo's top 10 worst movies or worst movie moments. It's on a Watch Mojo top 10 worst of something. I know that.
It's bad. It is really 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 bad. But that's the thing is the whole reason we got on this topic is like summer movies. Like it's hard to find them nowadays. It truly is. Even though there's a ton more of them, which one do you pick? Are they good? Are they bad? I've heard actually good things about Godzilla, and I really want to see it. I probably won't be able to be able to see it in theaters, but you have those people. Do you go see Detective Pikachu? I want to also see Rocket Man. I think it's the Elton John.
Rocket Man. One of the guys at work today told me that a lot of people have been saying that they like it more than Bohemian Rhapsody because it's more a celebration of him and his music, and not just a story. It's not just like a biopic. It's just about his music and himself. And so they say that they're really liking that in comparison to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, look at also Taron Egerton as a whole. He can sing. He's good looking. He does look like him, and even put him in the right makeup. And I haven't seen the film, but just the trailer and the visuals, trailers. He looks very much like him. Fun fact: I've actually seen him before. I've seen him about 10 rows back, and he is fantastic, by the way.
Jealous.
Because I saw him when, like, Almost Famous was, like, big and important to me in my life. Like, I loved that movie. And then I saw that, and he started playing that, and I was like, oh, my God. I didn't even know a whole lot about his music at the time. I heard his music, but I just knew that song in particular. I was like, I remember this from Almost Famous.
That's one of the movies.
That was my level of like fandom at the time. Now I love all his music, but that's why one of the reasons why I'm interested in actually going to see this movie is because Obviously, I didn't see him back in that heyday, but I'd love to see how he got to that point. I mean, he's been in
Hmm.
Vegas for years now. He hasn't been in Vegas last. I think he's ending his residency this year, but he's been here for 10 years. Over that,
Yeah.
he's
Well,
been in
it's always
Vegas.
nice too to see that story, to see where they came from, how they got here, because so far in a lot of the biops that we've seen, it's just a matter of, like Schlubby Parker said in Into the Spider Verse, just leap of faith. It's how it kind of boils down.
These
Crazy.
biopics, though, the Queen one, yes, I know people. It got nominated for an Oscar. I didn't hate the movie, but I liked what they tried to do. I just don't like the way it was executed. I thought Rami Malek was the best part about that movie. I think your editing still wasn't that great. There's bits and pieces of that story that I didn't care for as much, that I wanted to see either more of. But I know having to be reshot and redone and reworked, and
It was Frankenstein
that script had gone through hell. And I think for what it got is more than we deserved. So the Dirt, I guess if you want to compare that, I still like that one better. I still enjoyed it just from
Yeah,
just
that
that.
one was.
It was crude,
It
rude.
felt more
I
real.
understand that. Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, I
Is it
guess that is
felt
mostly
more
cruel.
like I opened a tour diary and I got the mental visuals of what was going on in that tour diary. That's really how it felt, and
And
they
honestly,
made
the
you
the
feel that.
voiceovers help too, like the breaking of the fourth wall, or the voiceovers that.
I love the Tommy when Machine Gun Kelly does, when he says he wakes up at 5 p.m. He gets on the handcuffs and he
That
gets
was great.
all that whole scene, just but how he narrates it, and it's going so along well with it. I just liked how that story was told better. Am I saying Motley Crue's a better band? Obviously not. But when it comes down to just their story being told, I thought really that it was told better. I know people are gonna say, "What? I have no idea what you're talking about." I get it. I understand it. So
Um, well, let's see what else is in theaters. Booksmart, the Olivia Wilde directorial debut.
oh yes, I really want to see that actually.
I actually had a chance to see it this week, and it
La di
was
da.
awesome.
Let me tell me about it. Yeah, tell me about it. I would actually tell me more about the movie because I've only seen bits and pieces from the interview. So, what's the movie about?
Um, the two main girls are graduating high school, getting into colleges, going off and doing like stuff abroad, and all throughout school they've just been there for the grades. They haven't really had fun, and so this final night is basically them trying to have fun, kind of like Superbad, but not nearly as crude. Uh, but it was, I mean, it was really good. I don't really know much more to say past that because I don't want to, give away anything of the movie. But
No,
it was definitely worth watching. Go see it
uh,
in theaters if you can.
I really want to. I probably will end up seeing it on VOD, especially if I can't get away for even going to go see Godzilla. Uh,
True.
I'm not gonna be able to get away to go see that, but that's one of the good things about this is that I can kind of catch up on movies as even though you see them, I always get that background, and
You can kind
we
of
always
come
get
in
that
on the back
refresh.
end.
But I miss out on things. That's why I don't really keep my ear to news and everything like that. But I don't when it comes to movies. I try to turn away. If something's good, I like to hear that it's good, but I don't want to hear anything else about it. Because if I'm not going to be able to go see it right away, I don't want to be spoiled by it. Even
Right.
though
I'm
like
I'm the
like
same way. Like I
Endgame and other movies were big enough where you have to go see it because pretty
well,
much the
and that's the
entire
thing
world
too
went
is
to go see it.
for a movie like Endgame, I knew, prior to the last 5 minutes being leaked and all that, I knew that any news that came out was news that we were able to read because otherwise they didn't let anything out. Obviously, it worked, and so for a movie like that, I want to know as much as I can going in because it makes that experience better. Like knowing that Jeremy Renner broke both of his arms during the filming of Tag, and that parts of his arms are CG in that movie, like crazy things like that. It just helps enhance the watching experience for me, at least.
I do have a movie that I want to bring up. I was actually looking for it. I actually only stumbled upon this the other day. Seth Green is making his directorial debut.
Ooh.
And it's actually going to be in theaters and on VOD starting Friday. So what is it? Going to be June
7th?
7th?
Yeah, because Dark Phoenix comes out this week too.
It's called Changeland. I don't want to give it away a whole lot, but essentially, it's about a story about a man trying to find himself, and him and his friend, they go off into overseas, and it's about them having this falling in love and doing this whole thing. It's something that it's more of on a serious role for Seth Green because he stars and directs in it. And
cool.
Also, any wrestling fans, Randy Orton's in it too, which is oddly strange.
That is kind of
but he just plays like a regular. He just plays like a regular guy at the bars where you see him, and he's got his regular cast of characters like some of his friends that you'll see. Brenda Song's in it. She plays the love interest. It's really interesting, but a complete shy away from what we're normally used to seeing him do. So I'm actually, this is one of the few things I'm excited to see. I'm going to try and seek this out on Friday when it comes out, because it to me, I like these strange picks. It's something that's out of the norm, and it's, even though it doesn't feel like an original story, I feel the way he's going to tell it will be original. So I'm excited to see it that in that sense.
Well, it's always, I really like watching first-time directors, especially if they've been actors before, like Olivia Wilde, somebody else had their directorial debut other than Jonah Hill. Like Jonah Hill, first-time directors that have been actors before, because they also have a different type of.
I think you're thinking of Brie Larson. I think it's Brie Larson you're thinking of with Unicorn Store.
Yes.
That was her directorial debut, or that's the biggest one that I can think of on a large scale.
I'm sure there's someone else, but as well. But yeah, like it's because it's also cool because if they do it right, you start to pick up on little things that they toss in that aren't like you're just theirs.
Yeah, because
like I'd love to learn how Olivia Wilde directed Booksmart.
Oh, absolutely!
It's an interesting point of view,
and that's what we're always looking for, as movie viewers or even just entertainment watchers. You're always looking for a different point of view. Show me something new that I haven't seen. And with a lot of these first-time directors, especially these bigger name first-time directors, it's nice because, in a way, like you said, you're gonna see the style that they do. And from what they've soaked in or who they're trying to emulate, and then you get those subtle changes that make it kind of their own.
Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born. That was the other one I was thinking of.
That's a perfect one. That's actually a very, very good one because I think his style, the way he does it, is it's very raw and emotional because that's the way that movie felt. Yeah. I would like to see him take another shot at something like that on a different topic. Even bring me something real. I would love to see it like American Sniper with him, directing as something like that because I think his character development would have been great in that. Not saying that Clint Eastwood did a bad job. No, I'm not saying he did a bad job because I love that movie, but I'm just saying take something real, gritty, something that means something. Because he put his stamp all over A Star Is Born of how good of a filmmaker I think he can tend to be. I think the way he told it and the moments that he chose to pick to make the story what it was. Spoiler: the scene that he chose is when he kills himself, which I guess isn't really a spoiler if you've ever seen any of the remakes of A Star Is Born. I think I like the only thing I'm gonna gush about this movie because I really do like it and I liked his style and it's a good pick. The way that he doesn't self-deprecate on himself. He doesn't have that anger lash out at Lady Gaga throughout that entire movie. He keeps it in, and it really builds that to the point, and it's just so much more heartbreaking. He builds that emotional level on a different way. He doesn't always give you exactly what you're expecting.
It's still just as, if not more impactful.
Yeah, because he builds it a certain way. He doesn't just feed you up. He there's a lot, and it keeps you going that entire way. Yeah, but that drop is that pivotal moment. Those moments, just it's bad. It's heartbreaking. But those first time directors, you can tell what their influences are on that. Bradley Cooper's, you can tell he has a style of his own because he's been watching enough. He's been wanting to direct for a long time. I know he's wanted to be behind the camera for a long time. You can tell that he's studied to be behind the camera a long time. Others like Brie Larson, which I thought they were great storytellers, I think more technical aspects would sharpen their movies up a little bit more. But I mean, they're making movies and we aren't, so I give them kudos to anybody who's out there doing it. So
we had some cool trailers come out. I know you want to talk about Ford versus Ferrari. I'm going to
save that till last. Yeah, we'll save that.
I want to talk about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Now, for those that aren't familiar with the concept, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was a book and a book trilogy, and all it was a book of scary stories. Some were one page, some were just a couple pages, but it was all scary stories, and they were really good too.
Oh, I actually vaguely remember this as a child. Now this is coming back to me. You said this, and I was like, okay, I get this. Yep. Now I'm back on this. This takes me back to 10 years old. We're good. I'm in.
All right. So the movie is like its own story, but it involves Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like, there was a book of many stories, and from the trailer that dropped within the last few days, we find out that it's a book that when those stories are read, they happen, or something like that. And so it's going to be really cool because we're going to get to see multiple stories all interact within this one movie. And it also looks like it's going to be a good movie. So I'm really excited for it.
I'm going to have to watch that trailer. What's that going to be out on? Is that going to be streaming? Is that going to
No, that's theaters.
That's
theaters in August, I think.
Oh, I'm down.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And then in November, of course, we've got Ford versus Ferrari. But
yeah, I've been waiting for a long time for this trailer. Back before we actually all got started into 2019.
Back on his 2019.
We actually talked about this movie. We talked about this is going to on my top 3 list, or my list of 3 movies for 2019. First one, we've actually already out and on digital now, which is Fighting with My Family, the WWE Page story, which I thought was pretty good. I really did. It was a really cool telling in a biopic. It won't go much deeper into that. It was a solid watch. And now we get into the last 2 picks. One we saw a trailer for a couple weeks back, which was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie.
Which is like 2 hours and 46 minutes, by the way. Just gonna toss that out there.
Give it to me. That's fine. I will.
Got a standing ovation at Cannes Film Festival, I think. One of the film festivals. Standing ovation.
Yes, I think Cannes is where where it premiered at, and so I'm excited for that. Everybody will go see his movie. People who really like film or people who like Tarantino's movies, we're all gonna go see it. So I think I'm excited for it. But this movie here is another. To me, I guess this is another biopic type movie. I guess all mine were in that same kind of realm. And this is Ford versus Ferrari. This is Ford's, I guess what they call in the trailer, a war against Ferrari to build a car that will compete and win at Le Mans. And we get to see quite a bit out of this first trailer. Not only just the action, but they really set this movie up with a strong storytelling just in the trailer itself. And this starts out with... We get to see Carroll Shelby, who is played by Matt Damon, which I think he's going to do a really great job. Carroll Shelby, who, everybody in Vegas knows who he is because, he's lived here. His plants, I live 10 minutes away from his plant out here in Vegas, out at the Speedway. He is larger than life, and I think that character transfers onto the screen. I think Matt Damon does a really great job because... Carroll Shelby was never eccentric. He's very straightforward, very hardworking. He was going to prove himself out on the track. That's what he was set to do. And because I don't want to give the whole story away, it's a very intense deadline that they were actually It was a 90-day deadline to try and build a race car to compete at Le Mans. And I like the way that they're coming at this from. I think they're coming at it from both years because there are 2 years that they competed at Le Mans. There's the first year and then the second year, and I think they're going to tell that whole entire story, which is going to be very riveting because
That'll be cool.
It just the whole process. It took a very long time, but the way they show it, it just makes it seem larger than life. And we don't get many car racing movies. I was talking about this with you. I think when you were out here with Ron Howard's Rush movie, where I really enjoyed that because that was the. I think one of the guys that just passed away, one of the guys the guy who was actually burned, and it was about an F1 rivalry back in the 1970s that had. I mean, it was hatred. It was pure drive, and you got to see that hatred, and that was cool in a car movie because we haven't seen that, and we haven't been able to see that again, because with car movies or motor racing movies in general, there's a history, but it's never been mainstream enough.
Specific way.
Yeah, and the names aren't household enough, and it's hard to bring that transcribed, which especially with like this movie Le Mans, it's a big name because Ford's on it, but overall people don't know what this racing is. It happens on this continent, but not very often. So it's transitioning that. Yeah, transitioning to that into a movie like this, it seems like it's going to come over very well. Christian Bale plays the out-of-the-control driver, which he really is in this movie, or the character was in real life. It was very much a handful, and I thought the character was very authentic and very accurate. So I'm
excited to see those actors together. I'm excited to see Christian Bale and even John Bernthal all be together, because to my knowledge, none of them have been in anything before at all with each other. So it's always fun seeing, especially big names like that, interact, because you get to see that kind of chemistry on screen.
I will say, and the thing I liked about the trailer, and I won't go too much more into it, I think you had a good series of good storytelling, and it was light at the end. I thought the part where the president of Ford gets in, and I forget exactly which Ford son that it was.
At the end.
And yeah, he weaves through in and out. And those cars are some of the actual cars as well, too. Those are actually still in a museum. Cool. I know on the Grand Tour, they actually brought those cars out from storage and let them actually go out on the racetrack. So they are still very much drivable, even today.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
But that's another one.
I'm not a big car guy. I don't know shit about cars. So it's going to be fun for me.
I know a thing or two, but that's about it. But I just think this is something different. And I think when it comes to movies that we don't get a whole lot of, we were just talking about this. We don't get these car movies very often. We don't. This is another genre that is not really tapped into. We get it in a different way of like Fast and Furious, and just how crazy can we be? We don't get the richness and the thickness of just the competition and really what people are willing to do. I think it's trivial to some people, but I think it's a part of history, because Ford is you see it every day. It's, no matter where you go, you'll see a Ford vehicle. That is a part of history, and it's cool to see not just how it was made, but here we're thriving. This was 50 years ago, and we're getting to see that now. So to me, it's one of those, it's something fresh, it's something new, and I really like the idea, and I think having the actors that they've got in there is going to help convey this to a larger audience. Well, and also I think coming out in November too, I think it hits that right time of year where you're not going to get the big numbers, but what you're going for. But you're getting the quality movies at that time. You do, after the scary movies of October come out, you start getting, these, it's always Oscar movies, but you get these solid dramas, and I think this is going to be one of those that is not necessarily it won't make the top 10 list. I think it might make mine, but I think it's one of those movies that you'll remember and go, oh man, that was actually really good. I think it's going to be more memorable than Rush.
See what else? Robert Pattinson. I don't think we've touched on that yet.
Well, we might as well, everybody get comfortable. Let's.
I think you can tell where Travis sides.
No, you never know. My wife could have made me watch Twilight 10 million times like she did, and I
feel like that would make you hate Robert Pattinson more.
All right. I don't like the casting, but I understand the casting, and I think the maturity level of what people are looking at him from Twilight, I think, is a completely different man than what you would see now. I mean, you have to give the person the ability to grow up, and I think he has. My problem with it is that I don't think he quite has the personality to carry a movie franchise. When I think of a superhero star like you would normally see, DC's always gone that unconventional, traditional approach. Robert Downey Jr. is a larger-than-life character and very personable. I guess you see him on social media. He's more of an outward, he vocalizes a lot more. Mm-hmm. DC has a lot of characters who stay very reserved. They have great actors, but some of the trouble that I have... Well. No, but some of the right way to put this is with like Robert Downey Jr., a character like that, in real life is not afraid to go out and sell a movie. He's also that character transitions into his character on the screen as well as in real life. So when I see that character, I feel a larger than life character. If you don't put that right person behind for that right character, you don't get that. Batman is dark and mysterious, which I feel Robert Pattinson gets, but I also feel like that strong-willedness isn't there as much, and I don't see him in that quite as much because there's not a resume for it. Yes, he did Twilight, and I know there was action sequences in that, and I don't want to just base him off of that because he is a different actor and he's done other things. It's just, to me, in anything you watch him in, he blends in more than stands out. And for a character that when you're playing a superhero with your name on the title, you have to stick out.
I see that. No, the way I see it is, I kind of get what you're saying. Like, he seems like he'll make a better Batman than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, essentially. I guess if you put it more eloquently than me, but yes.
Which kind of, I mean, that's about how the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was. He was a good Peter Parker, but not the best Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man, but not the best Peter Parker. Tom Holland is both. And it's going to be interesting. Also, it's hard to speculate how he's going to do because Matt Reeves, who's directing it, the Batman, I think his original plan was to make it in period. So like in 1938 when Batman was created, he thought about doing it back then. So if we get a more period Batman, it'll have a different feel to it.
I'm done. You've sold me my money if you get it in the right area. But the problem is with DC, they've never been able to do that 100%. They could get the right casting, they can get the right director, but they can never put the right movie together. If they can do that with this and they're willing to take the chance, I'm willing to let it. I'm down to let that happen because I've always wanted a superhero movie set in a time frame where we haven't seen anything before. I think that would be so cool.
Well, so here's the other thing. Because I know Ben Affleck dropped out of the Batman, and this is the whole, I don't know, language behind it, is it always said the Batman. So I don't know if Ben Affleck is truly done with being Batman in the DCEU, because this Batman that Robert Pattinson is going to be is not going to be in the DCEU. It's going to be its own story, and I think if they get it, they want to turn it into a trilogy, but it's still not going to be part of the DCEU. Now, if Ben Affleck...
See, and that's the thing.
Now, if Ben Affleck drops, then they could utilize multiverse to bring this Batman into the DCEU and continue that way.
And with Marvel, they would give you 4 movies to set this up. Your movie's going to try and do it in 1, maybe 2. It might be a 2-parter where they're going to try and wrap this shit all together. And that's the problem. You're making yourself work too much. You're not working smart. You're just doing more work.
DC lacks the vision to pull off what Marvel's doing. And it's frustrating.
Build a fucking character. If we're getting another Batman, give me another Batman. But build towards something. I'm sorry. That's the thing is, I haven't seen a lot of the DC movies, and you could call it what you will that I haven't seen them, but the reason for it is because you're not building towards anything. They tried and they failed really bad with Justice League. Because even though bits and pieces of that may have been good, the entirety as a whole was shit. You can admit that. If you're going to compare even a phase with compared to Marvel, when you had all of this time to do it and you couldn't do it, you suck at what you do and you shouldn't do it. Because they should have brought other people in and they should have started again.
Do it.
But then you should have started again. You should have started from scratch and zero. And,
Definitely.
But you didn't. Instead, you doubled down after making a Wonder Woman movie. You could have brought her back in again. But now, when you bring her in again, it's going to be in a completely different way. Or if it's not going to correlate to anything else, there's no point. Because I'm not getting a satisfaction. If I wanted to watch a standalone movie, let me go find an original idea that someone else is doing that's going to do it better. I don't need to see a superhero movie then. If I want something else, let me go see an original idea. I know they're still out there. We don't get them a whole lot. But I do actually want to go see an original idea. Don't give me some half-assed Superman or Batman that may or may not be in this area. That's why everybody loves the Joker movie. The Joker movie looks good as a great movie, but if it's not going to pay off for anything in that universe, then what's the point of it? Because that's what we're building for. That's why you're DC. DCEU stands for something. It stands for your cinematic universe. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is your extended universe, but I don't want to have to jump from multiverse and know what has to be in which. Because for me, that's exhausting. I can do it. But for the common fan, or even for like the people like went out that normally go out to see Endgame because so many people saw it, a lot of those people may not have seen any of the other Marvel movies, or may have skipped out on a few, or haven't seen them in a while. You have to equate for that. And that's what Marvel does, is they dumb it down for you, but they don't dumb it down enough. You know, they still allow the story to be what it's going to be. Don't make me restart over and over again, or I have to jump from this side to this side, or what's going to work over here may not work over here. I don't want that. You know, if I'm going to have that, do a TV universe where you can jump around. I mean, DC's done it successfully with their The Flash, Arrow, you know, Legends of Tomorrow. All of these people can intertwine if they want to, and they do it brilliantly. And it's a fine-tuned machine. But you can't seem to do it with a movie?
On the DC TV side, like at least, so Titans came out earlier, or at the end of last year, and then it was Doom Patrol. Swamp Thing just started, which is great, but
I haven't started any of them. They look Titans,
good. Great. First episode of Swamp Thing was fantastic, and Doom Patrol and Titans I was really surprised by. It was very good, but it was clear that Doom Patrol is somehow in the universe of Titans. So it seems like they're trying to create a darker side, a more adult side. And if DC were to stop making movies, but instead made those same characters in badass TV shows, I'd much prefer that. Because 10 episodes, like a 10-episode Batman season would be outstanding. You wouldn't have to cram anything. You could actually show every part of Batman, like the detective side that we don't usually see.
Well, you could also do them Game of Thrones or like the last season. Do 6 episodes, make them an hour and 15 minutes long, and boom, you're getting almost a movie every single week. Or you could even cut them down like Sherlock did and just do like 3 episodes, but they're an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes long. Make them full-length feature films. I mean, I would be okay with that. I mean, but then again, if they can't seem to make a movie work in general and have all this time to do it, what amount of time am I going to give them for a TV show? I know it works and operates completely different, but you're still going to have to tell a story a certain way. I mean, whether you're doing it for a digital platform service like their DC streaming service, or if you're doing it for a wide release in theaters, to me, if you're going to have the amount of money, the amount of resources, it needs to be done right. Your TV side, I can't mess with. I can't knock. Not CW side, even though I haven't seen anything on DC-wise on their streaming platform. I've heard nothing but good things. I actually want to watch Titans. But then again, there's too many things out there. And that's the problem with TV. If you muddle down with TV... But if you muddle down with TV, what are you going to cut out nowadays? Now you have to be in that competitive edge market for, with everything else. Not just Marvel. Now you have to compete with other networks and what Netflix is doing, or what HBO is doing, or what Amazon's doing. That becomes too difficult, and you still have network TV to fight over. So, to me, DC, if they can ever just get on the same level playing field. Right now, they're still ahead with what they're trying to do versus what they're trying to correct from before, and it doesn't seem like we can get on the same page. If you could get everything on a straight line release schedule, I think you would be okay.
Yeah.
But I mean,
with characters like Wonder Woman, I think is the next DC movie to come out, besides Joker. Uh, it's hard. It's hard to correct it because like you have Shazam, like Aquaman did a good job of bringing the audience back to this is what a good DC movie looks like, and then Shazam came in and reaffirmed it more on the family side, and obviously it didn't do as well in theaters, but Wonder Woman is the next big character to get their own movie inside of this whole franchise, but it's still set before all of the events that happen. So you have whatever movies after that to try and correct the universe that you've kind of destroyed.
fucked up. No, not kind of destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. And I get it. But if you would have taken a break, but here's the thing. And here's the difference between Disney, because I'm going to bring up another major franchise. Star Wars already said, we're going to stop for a little bit. We're going to stop for 2 years, and then we're going to start up again, but we're going to take a break. We're going to finish this, we're going to step away, and then we're going to come back. That's what DC needed to do, and they can't do that now. I can't be like, they're going to need to stop now. It's too late. The ball's already rolling. My thing is, you wasted I think you wasted a Wonder Woman character and a great storyline, because it's never going to pay off in anything more than just her character trilogy. It's not going to pay off in anything bigger, because I don't believe her crowning achievements should be associated with like Justice League. I think her crowning achievements should be on 1, 2, and 3 on her own storyline, because I think that's going to be massive, and I'm excited for that. I love the first one, but my whole thing is like, other than that, and Aquaman was great too. I love those. But you only have 2 of these characters, then you're going to bring a Batman in, and then you got a Joker character, and then you're trying to do Suicide Squad, but where do all of these other movies fit in? Because they don't really fit anywhere but these 2 movies here. I hate that. And I think maybe that's because being biased towards Marvel, because I get my cake and eat it too, and I get a certain way of how all this stuff is done, and it makes it so much easier, because I know this is this and this is this. Because even if they reference something outside in the TV universe to the cinematic universe, it's very subtle. S.H.I.E.L.D. does it very well. They've had everything so intricately done to where it doesn't matter where you're watching
it's
something.
Still, yeah.
And that's the thing is, you want to keep TV and cinema separate? Cool. I think that's better off anyway. I was very surprised that Marvel did that even in Endgame with the Jarvis reference, and even having Jarvis the character from from Agent Carter. I thought that was really awesome. It was just like one of those. That was a feel good, like full, like what does Kevin Smith call it, a fan service moment. Like it really was.
Well, the thing is too is for those people that watched, who watched Agent Carter, they knew exactly who that was, and you're like, oh my god, they literally took everybody and tried to bring them in. And to other people, they're like, oh, it's the Butler, it's the live version of Jarvis. But you get that deeper connection in that, 10 seconds of screen time?
But it hits you, though. And then everything floods back, because that's what you think about. Who knew, in which, by the way, Agent Carter was my favorite Marvel TV show. That was on,
Agent Carter was great.
I was so pissed that it never got the time of day. I really did. I liked it. I'm very much that time period. I like seeing that 30s, 40s time period piece era. I think it's very fascinating to watch, and I think it was done very well for a comic book side of things, which I wish it would have stayed around. But it's just one of those things where when Marvel just does small things like that, and I like that, even though I was very surprised they did it. They kept everything separate, and I like the way that happened, and I want DC to do the same thing, but I don't want to have to jump around from, okay, this is in this universe, and then this is standalone, and then this is in this universe. I thought we were living in a world with less and less boundaries of what we can do, and Marvel's done it, and what I was going to say earlier is with Star Wars. I mean, like I said, Star Wars took their franchise, and they've gone the same direction. The last movie wasn't great. Let's be honest. I mean, I thought Solo was great. I thought...
Not that good.
Go ahead.
Solo was excellent. I love Solo.
I love Solo.
Solo was
was
more of a
fantastic.
Star Wars movie than Star Wars was for me.
Dumb fun fact, just because we're friends and I know we're doing the podcast and everything, you should go on eBay and look at the Star Wars Land stuff of what they're selling and how much they're selling stuff for. Like people who bought stuff, the little Coke bottles that look like little lightsabers, they're going for $60 on eBay, which is just
Jesus Christ.
like it just cringes me. Like people buying like the hats that say the Outpost, they're like $75, $80 for a hat. I'm like,
Fun fact about Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge.
ooh.
Surprisingly, it was only $1 billion to make, and I say only $1 billion. I mean, $1 billion is a lot of money in general, but only $1 billion for Disney.
I think Marvel can make
is like
that in a
20
weekend.
bucks.
Yeah, I think Marvel
Yeah.
can make that in a weekend. Hit
Yeah,
that
I mean,
corner for 3 days, Avengers, and boom, you got your.
It
you got
hit
your
on top of its,
$1.2.
probably $500 million to make and market and all that. Okay, you're still left with $2 billion. Okay, take away that $1 billion for Galaxy's Edge because you've already spent that. You're still up $1.2 billion. Like the Disney's never going away. I wish they would start releasing more actually original content in theaters.
They are.
But they're still not going away.
Well, let's start with streaming service though. Let's see what they can do on their streaming service where
True.
they're not restricted by any
True.
bounds. They can make their own property. They can do whatever they want. But I mean, I'm so excited for that, by the way. But I'm really excited to see these Marvel shows. After Tom Hiddleston, seeing him in The Night Manager and knowing that he can carry a series, I think having him go off
Night
and
Manager's
be
great.
Yeah, I think with that and doing that now, I mean, they're doing the right things in the right way, and they're giving me things that I never thought I want to see. You want to give me a Falcon and Winter Soldier show?
Winter Soldier.
What? Are
oh
you
my
kidding?
God.
Like, I'm cool with that. But I'm interested to see how it turns out. I'm guessing it's going to be larger than life, like a mini Marvel movie every week for an hour. I really, truly believe that. Or even a half an hour, 40 minutes. Whatever they end up giving us, I think. And also, $6 a month, too, and get their whole back catalog. Like, that's
Until they,
so
start
worth it.
raising it and all that. But $6 isn't bad to start off.
I'm buying that year pass. As soon as they put that year up, I'm buying that year for $70. At least so I'm price locked for a year.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to be stuck when like Netflix is what I think I pay $15.99 for the Ultra package because I have 4K TV.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane nowadays. I mean, but look at the quality of stuff that we're getting off of there. Also, did you see the news about the Russo brothers signing with Netflix about Magic the Gathering, and they are creating a Magic the Gathering TV show specifically for Netflix? It's not gonna hit for a while. So I forgot to bring this up, and it's probably bigger news, but the Russo brothers have signed an exclusive deal with Netflix to bring out a Magic the Gathering game. Or
I'm
TV
pretty
show.
excited about that. All of my friends played Magic. No, they played Magic way, longer than I have. But that's interesting. It's an interesting concept to try and bring to a television series. I'm excited. I'm down. I'll watch it.
Larger than life. I mean, and they're going to do it right. I mean, you give them whatever they want. If they want $1 billion to make this, then guess what? Because people are going to watch it. And it's going to be done correctly. And that's one of the things. They're going to take the time to develop. And I'm sure after doing everything that they did to be a part of that cinematic universe, I know they weren't a part of everything until I think they came in at Winter Soldier. They came in. But still, even then, you've been in that cinematic universe a long time. I'd love to see what they can do elsewhere with the detail that they put into everything.
I don't really have anything else.
Before we get out of here, I do want to say, make sure everybody watch out that you do have Black Mirror coming out this week.
Yes, Wednesday.
So what I figured we're going to do, next week's podcast is going to be a little different, everybody. We are going to sit down and break down Chernobyl because I haven't been able to see the season finale yet. And so we're really going to break that down. We talked about it with Cole, if you remember, a couple episodes back. If you haven't, go back and listen. Just because we're going to tie in a lot of that together. I want to break down that show because I think it was so fascinating and very well done. And I don't want to talk anymore about it. But also, I want to go over the first episode. We'll break down of Black Mirror and kind of go over it. Because I think that's... you and I love that show. You got me hooked on it.
Yeah.
And ever since I binged within a couple days, I watched all 4
I remember.
seasons.
Also, before we head out, AMC just started. Just restarted Fear the Walking Dead, but they also started Nosferatu, spelled NOS number 4A number 2. It's actually a license plate. It's a TV show that is based on a book written by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. The other story of his that I know that was turned into a movie was Horns with Daniel Radcliffe, which I really liked. I binged all 10 episodes in the last 2 days, and it's really good. I really enjoyed it. It's different. I did think it was going to be a single season story, so expect that it's going to go on to another season because it played out that way, but I really liked it. My mom recommended it to me because she read the book and she really liked it. So check that out if you have a chance to. With that being said, I am B. Frank.
And I'm Travis.
And we are worth the admission.
See you next week. Take care.